Is the volume okay there? Can you? Okay. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. I apologize for a little bit of the delay. I mean, it was a technical question which needed to be fixed. And so welcome to the Council Connections. We have a little bit of a change in the program. We were going to have a special session with 3 people on at the table, but unfortunately, Billy is not feeling very well, so I'm sure that we'll have a great presentation. So I'll leave it for you.
Welcome. It's so easy to be in front of you, all familiar faces. I'm happy you came. We're going to share the role of 3 people, and I will do a little opening and give you some history to the Interfaith Committee. And then I'm going to bounce some questions back and forth to Ina just to keep her timing in control. If you have questions, hold on to them. We're going to give you ample time to talk and ask questions in the back. But okay. Yeah. Something I put down to share with you is the Interfaith Committee has been probably the longest running committee for Woodland Pond. It began with the first gathering of people the very first year the doors opened. At that time, we had 3 pastors who moved in. Someone from Episcopal Church, someone from the Methodist Church, and someone from the Reformed Church. In addition, we had more than a couple handfuls of residents, some of whom were Jewish, many of whom were Catholic. They put together the idea that we needed to come together for some spiritual time. Here's some words I want to share. We come together reinforcing shared beliefs and learning of one another and their beliefs. Our cultural identity is a part of our lasting spiritual and human experience. Our faith helps us define the moral landscape. We do this through our presence and involvement with one another. Well, the first group got together, named a chair of the committee who happened to be Catholic, and said, we got all these ministers. We need to bring in Father from St. Joe's. So he came in and he spoke with the group early on. And regularly, monthly, the group got together. They talked about singing. They talked about their experiences in their church. And yes, in their temple. Some of you know Nessie Karp. She was one of the first members of the Interfaith Committee. And she was one of the first to point out when it was time that we should not only celebrate Christmas, as everyone was talking about, but we needed to talk about Hanukkah. And we did. And they expanded it forward, working with dining, and put together a Passover celebration. The first full year we were here as a committee deciding what had to be done. And each year it continued. We celebrated holidays and faith. And sometimes, most recently, we celebrated the holidays with separate services here in the PAC. You may recall recently having attended a Lenten service, attended Christmas services with the lighting of the tree out front. That's been happening after the first year. The first year they didn't have that big tree out front. they didn't pull it together that quickly. But we've had so many different things that have been going on. I'm going to continue to talk about some of those things, but just to let you know, this is a committee that has grown from the initial 6 people to sometimes 26 who come together. It happens every month, the 4th Monday of the month, and it's at 10:30, and it goes on the calendar till 12. But if you finish early, we leave early. And I'm going to introduce to you now, and perhaps I should say the reason I've been asked to do this is I was the chair of the Interfaith Committee for 6 years. And we'll get into what the committee can do, but I'm happy you're here because we always need to know what more we should be doing for one another. Introducing you to Ina, and I will have lots of questions for Ina.
I had big shoes to fill when I took over for this lady. Really, and her guidance that I have now makes me feel as a better chair, a better person, and have better understanding. So I thank Pat. There are, as Pat said, many religious affiliations with Interfaith. And one of the things that we do is we talk about the value of faith. And that has so many different meanings to so many different people. It's incredible what comes out in conversation and what we plan to do. And topics are raised, we go with it, we talk about, we discuss, and I am very pleased to say that we as a group have so much support in the community. One of the things that we have a big success with is the food pantry over at SUNY. We put that together seasonally, and that will be coming up again.
If I may interrupt and point out that the woman who has chaired that food pantry group every year since the 2nd year is Vivian Yetru, and she's sitting right here in the 2nd row. Thank you to Vivian. We've held these food drives in the fall and in the spring in conjunction with SUNY New Paltz Food Pantry, but it's also in conjunction with the Episcopal Church because they have had people helping staff that food pantry over the years. One year, Vivian and I went there and took pictures. We couldn't believe how many shelves were empty. And these were students who were coming in looking to see if they could find a box of cereal or a can. It's hard to imagine, but yeah, these students are also on the needy side. They're here, many of them, first time ever leaving home. So when we have our food drive, what we found out, because they have some strong organization going on now, that they're accepting checks, and the checks are providing the items that are really of need. And the food pantries, as you may know, not only at SUNY New Paltz, but locally, people who are on food stamps can't buy some very basic needs. Toilet paper isn't one of those needs that are seen with food stamps, and women's personal products and toothpaste is not an acceptable item with food stamps. So whenever we make donations, we care about others less fortunate, thinking how fortunate we are. Ina, if you'd also talk about the different groups running. Maybe give us a little bit of your background.
Well, I've been at Woodland Pond now 4 years. And I've gotten involved with, I don't know, one or two things, but that's about it. Um, I came to Interfaith in kind of a unique way. Many of you know that I'm involved with a wonderful committee here called Shalom Space. When we presented the idea to the upper directors, we were told, okay, you got to get it approved by Interfaith. Well, okay, I go to Interfaith, I present the idea. Okay, you got to come back and keep us posted each week until it takes off. Okay. By that time, it was, hey, you want to join the committee? And I guess I said, I already am. Okay. That's how I got on Interfaith. But it has been so rewarding for so many reasons that it sparks a little bit inside of you with each meeting. It gives you food for thought. There's a lot to it. I would like to say I'm very proud that on a monthly basis, we have a program called the Tree of Faith. The tree over there is the Tree of Faith. And we try to bring representatives of the community within the Hudson Valley to share with you all residents in what other religious groups are out there or in some way connected to a faith-based group. In the last 2 years, we've brought Sikh family, a Zoroastrian family, Rabbi Adam, Father Sal, Father John, members of the Bruderhof group, the Focalares from Hyde Park, Rabbi Rena Blumenthal, and the community Thanksgiving service that Lynn Mellon and I have started. And it's very rewarding. So whether you come to Interfaith or just Tree of Faith, please join us.
Telling you a little bit more of some of the other groups involved. We have had over the years a prayer group. For a couple of years, we had Sister Eileen, who comes from Spiritual Directions. She had been a nun, but was no longer a nun and living in the Vineyard Haven, which is not in a senior community, not far from us. She came with a sheet of material to read, spiritually directed, not in advance. And we just sat and we talked about it. Where we talked about the things she brought to us each month was in the meditation room. Some of you may not even know there is such a thing, but the meditation room was developed by the original group of 6, saying, well, where are we going to meet? We just need a quiet place where we won't be interrupted, having a chance to be alone with our faith and our sisters and brothers who choose. So the meditation room is a little room that was created on the 2nd floor, the elevator right next to the library. You open the elevator door on the 2nd floor, and there's the meditation room on the right side. Take a visit there sometime. Usually it's an empty room. It was once a storage closet, but it was the only private space that could be relinquished back there 13 years ago. However, that room was decorated with the most magnificent, beautiful photographs that had been taken of the Hudson Valley. Those are pieces of art that were purchased by the fund that was first collected by the first 50 residents from Woodland Pond. And those are the only pieces of art in that room. There's a bookcase with spiritual, religious books, but the meditation room was used from year 2 by residents at Woodland Pond who just wanted some time together to meditate. It's still going on, a meditation group that's held, only it's held in the art room because regulations said you can't have more than 5 people there anymore. We used to have 12 in a cramped space, but it was a meditation room and still is for us to use. Another thing that was held was a Bible study class. Different ministers from different churches would come in and give us a 6-week Bible study class. It was open to anybody who wanted to attend. Different ministers move on. Whenever there was a new clergy that came into the area, Interfaith Committee was informed, and we would invite the new clergy to come and do a Tree of Faith presentation. They would talk to residents for about 45 minutes of what their background is, where they came from, what their faith is, what they're looking to do moving into our community. And that kept changing, still does. We have had people come talk to us with the connections we personally had. Woman who was on the committee said, I have a new rabbi who is assisting the rabbi. Come in. This past fall, we had a presentation. Lynn Mel chaired it, but we had 4 clergy members, local clergy members, plus our own Dawn Sangre, answer comments and questions about what the rainbow flag is really all about and how does your religious institution respect that. Different comments and questions came from you. We talked about the food drive during COVID, though. The committee was kind of shut down, except Michelle called and asked, we're missing not getting together. What can Interfaith Committee do? So every week, sometimes as often as 3 times a week, we did the closing 15 minutes of the day's closed circuit TV program. Different residents would come together. Some shared Bible stories, some read poetry that they liked, some talked about nature experience that they had. It was supposed to be a calming end to another trying day or a difficult week that we were having at Woodland Pond. That's something that ended, and to make it a little more joyful, we had residents, many of whom were Pondaliers, do hymn song in the great room. Anybody could come sing along, but there were about a dozen vocalists coming together in the great room, picking their favorite hymns to sing. It was another spiritual gathering, a time of reflection. Ina, I'd like you to give them a little bit of background with your religious affiliations and what value you find in your faith.
Well, I'm Jewish, and it's kind of a weird background for me. I grew up in a home that was Orthodox, which means very strict, kosher home, and 2 sets of dishes, 2 sets of china, 2 sets of everything. When my grandfather passed, we kind of leaned conservative, which is a little moderate. And when I went away to college and I was on my own, I went Reformed, which is, yeah, it's okay to eat ham and so on. I still lean kind of between Reformed and conservative, and that's where I stand, basically religiously. But ironically, I married an atheist. So it was kind of interesting because after so many years, when somebody would say to Mike, are you Jewish? He'd say, well, I'm Jewish by affiliation. I've been to so many bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, brisses, and so on that I feel like, and he started to associate, which was great. And just so you know, our second date was my nephew's bris. So that really got him thinking. But anyway, as I come here with participation in just about all of the Jewish activities, I share in all the other activities through Interfaith, and Pat asked what Judaism means to me, and for me, it's more spiritual than actual. I don't necessarily commit to the prayers every day. I know what I was taught, but because of my Orthodox synagogue growing up, I was never allowed to be bat mitzvahed, so I'm a little off on that. But other than that, for me, the spirituality of Judaism is I do believe in offering service to others, which is very known in the Jewish faith, and I do believe in besides the service in helping and opening home, heart, and everything else to others. And I do believe in the holidays that we have, and I share my experiences here at Woodland Pond.
Currently, we have 2 ministers living with us, in independent and in assisted. I should say 3. Roger Leonard, who was one of the 3 first residents and ministers, he now is in assisted. 3 ministers who have helped lead us through Bible study, through services at specific holidays. I think what is most meaningful is an understood word of education. We're together educating one another about faith and what faith means to us. Ina shared what she had to say. I would let you know that every time we have a meeting, regardless of our faith, we take a moment at the beginning of the meeting to remember those of us at Woodland Pond who have passed on. It's a special connection. We become family. When Roger Leonard started the Interfaith Committee, he said, I really would like to call it the interfaith community, because that's what we are. We're a community. We learn to grow together and share together. Vivian, I pointed out, is one of the first members and has been running that SUNY food pantry and always asks for help. It's never enough, but you have an opportunity again. Intended to be here today was Billy Stevens. Billy was at a meeting and I said, I've just been asked to take over as chair of the Interfaith Committee. And I had been serving as Cohn's, what was Cohn's first name? Steve Cohn, he was the chair of the committee, almost walked in the front door as a resident and accepted the chairmanship the next month after his first. He came as a Buddhist. And he was chair for 2 years and asked right off the bat if I would be the secretary. And so I accepted that. But when he said, next month is my last meeting as chair, and they had to come up with someone to take over the chair position, sort of as Ina walked in, I needed a secretary. So the first meeting I had, I let it be known I needed a secretary. And Billy Stevens, who was supposed to be with us right now, contacted me and she said, I'd be willing to do that. Billy has done a wonderful job. And if you ever want to know what went on over the past 6 years, excluding the 2 from COVID, when we didn't have meetings, there's a whole notebook of notes that Billy has taken. Billy has just, within the past year, resigned as secretary, and Jane Konitz, who is with us now, has agreed to take minutes of the meeting. We don't really have members. We're just an open door committee, and we invite everyone and anyone to join us. I told you Steve was in charge and he came as a Buddhist, but he didn't feel competent to talk about what Buddhism was. We managed to get a monk who came in with his garb, and people, I always invite the speakers to have lunch with me before they were presenting, or with the committee before they presented. He came in with shaved head and the garb, and boy, did he get the look. But when we let it be known that he had been approved as a speaker and we had a presentation here, the room was filled. We learned what it meant to be living in a monastery, where he came from, what he did. The same thing that came with, you see adults wearing these male turbans on their head and you call them Sikhs. You call them Sikhs. They informed us they're to be called Sikhs. Like SICKS. It's still hard to do that, but we learned, and they brought their children with song, and we didn't realize that it's not a patriarchal religion. The women rule. We didn't know that. So there are always things to learn. What we want to know now is, what do you want from the Interfaith Committee? Or what would you like more from our interfaith community?
I got it. When somebody asks me, excuse me, what is interfaith? What do you guys do there? The easiest way, I've come up with something, and I have to read it because I want to get it right. It's, we touch the tentacles of world religions, and we bring knowledge of world practices to residents, and all inclusion and acceptance for the population of Woodland Pond. So anything is open and for discussion. And as Pat was alluding to, I have a family friend who is Zoroastrian. That was a packed house. Zoroastrian, the religion of Zoroastrian, there was only 250,000 left practicing in the world. You can't convert, you have to be born into it. And nowadays, the younger generation is not carrying on. So we learned about that. Everything else that of all the religions that come in somehow touch in some way, whether it's touch you spiritually, touch you to think more, touch you to do more, maybe to donate, maybe to give time. That's sort of what I get out of interfaith more and more. And it's of most of the committees that I'm involved with, it's the one that I most look forward to because it's never the same. So that's my take on it.
What I'd like to say before I turn it over to all of you is the committee is one of gratitude. We're very happy to be here. And we like to share our appreciation for all the things that have been done for us living here. And then the other thing is not just thanks to everything that's being done for us, but we have our own way of saying a prayer or a thanks or appreciation for the benefits we have in being able to be here. So thanks for giving us a chance to share interfaith with you. Now, how about ideas of what you'd like interfaith to be doing? Questions?
I know you said like your husband was an atheist. I'd like to see them come to interfaith. I'd like to hear their take on life and what they believe or don't believe.
Ironically, that we're working on in coming up for Shalom Space, but that's a great topic that we can look at as far as it goes. Thank you.
Other questions?
Anything else you'd like to see us do?
Um,
You might like us to bring?
I would like to ask a question. There is a question of your morals and human values and so on. And not all of them are established religions. You have atheists, you have agnostics. How do you see that in the context of what you are doing? Because I think that there is people that have all kinds of values. They do wonderful work, and they don't believe in a God, or they don't believe in a religion or in particular practices. It's just all, I would say, to a large extent, internal.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, everybody is welcome, and all opinions are open and taken to heart. But I can honestly say, you may be an atheist, you may have absolutely no commitment to a spirit, a God, whatever. But as someone who came through last year, a very big ordeal medical wise, when I came through it, I was very grateful, and I gave thanks. So there's always going to be something, whether it's an atheist who says, I don't believe, in talking, somehow there's got to be, whether they believe in Kermit the Frog or whether they believe in Buddha or whatever. There's something in the soul, and it's worth coming to interfaith to share.
What my answer to that is, and I believe it's because of the home I was brought up in, that we are all God's children. And the tenet of all faith is love, and to love one another. That golden rule applies to all, whether you're a churchgoer or not even believing in a God. If you feel that you're among brothers and sisters, and if you believe in the word of love, That's a faith within you. Anyone else want to respond to that?
Have you thought about having any kind of a dialogue between two faith leaders of, let's say, a Muslim imam and a Jewish rabbi, or a Protestant Christian minister and possibly one of the other?
That's what was when we had this session this past winter, talking about how your faith is responding to the LGBTQ community. We had several different representatives sharing that. We have looked for an imam to come visit with us. It has not happened, even when people say, I have a connection, but the connection has not really taken place. Not really taken place. We have had Jewish and Christian, and remember, Christian is all the other little denominations in addition to Catholic. For people who are Jewish, they don't quite get that. It's confusing to those of us who are part of it too. It is a little over the top sometimes, but we have had Rabbi Strongen, is he the one who, former one from the temple in New Paltz? He was here along with Mark, who was the former pastor at the Reformed Church, and they shared in discussion. And then a resident who's been part of the Interfaith Committee, Mary Lou Dillon, has on her own done a marvelous job the past 2 years putting a Thanksgiving service together at one of the institutions here. I'm not sure where it was. It was Lutheran Church and then the Reformed Church, and bringing in all the clergy to celebrate Thanksgiving and share their personal perspective of what the holiday means. Yeah. But if you have ideas of how to pull two others together, please come to our meetings.
Sure. I came across a quotation from C.S. Lewis last week that goes something like this. Everyone thinks forgiveness is a lovely idea until they have something to forgive. So I think forgiveness would be a lovely topic.
One of the other things that we're proud of, I received an email from Sue Close, the activities director at the health center, and she said that the health center population has a large amount of Jewish residents. Can I get a rabbi or a layperson, somebody in to on a regular basis? And I put the word out to the 5 rabbis locally that I know. And the first to respond was Rabbi Rena Blumenthal. And once a month, she comes to the health center and does sometimes a service, sometimes just singing, sometimes talking. And it's wonderful because a lot of the residents remember the cadence, the prayer. They remember that. They don't always remember everything else, but when they hear a song or they hear something, it triggers a memory, and that brings life. And as you all know, at least I hope you know, to the Jewish population, life is l'chaim. It's chai, 18. That's the inner soul, l'chaim. So it's a nice feeling all around.
Let you know their church service buses available every Sunday morning. And if there's a group that needs to or chooses to go somewhere else, we can make arrangements to do that too. We have desire to get to the monastery, and we have desire and an invitation to a different Bruderhof, which is up in Esopus. Very small, but they are very caring, welcoming people, and we hope to share it. And let us know if there's anything more that you'd like us to be sharing with one another. Thank you.
Our next meeting is this coming Monday. Please, 10:30 in the game room. And we meet every fourth Monday. So if you can't make it this Monday, next month, also, please feel free to join us.
Thank you. Thank you. Filling in.